Hi, everyone. Mitch Jackson, Human.Social. This is going to be a good show today. My guest today is Ivy Gray of WordRake. Ivy, we're going to get started in about 30 seconds. I'm excited, you guys. We have a very special guest today, someone who's heading up VP of Strategy and Biz Development for WordRake, one of my favorite applications because it helps me look smarter and write better than I really am or I really do. Ivy, thanks for being on Human.Social today.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to get to share this time with you, and I'm so excited that you're such a super fan.
I am a super fan of you and WordRake. And listen, writing for me has never been easy. Becoming a lawyer and then realizing, wait a minute, I need to learn how to write better than what I did in high school and college, frankly, in law school too. And when I came across WordRake, it just really changed everything. Why don't you tell everyone in the audience, generally speaking, what is WordRake and how can we use it to write better?
Sure. So WordRake is a clear and concise editor for anyone who writes for a living. It's an add-in for Microsoft Word or Outlook. And with one click, it will ripple through your document, making suggestions for how to make your document clearer, tighter, punchier, just more interesting and a better read. And serving our readers is really the whole point of writing. So doing some editing to get to that point will really help you out.
And it's super easy to use. And we're going to go through some of my favorite and Ivy's favorite features in WordRake today, everyone. But before we do, you guys hit the share button, share this out all over social media. Let us know in the comments, where are you watching today's show from? Where are you located? How's the weather? I know it's beautiful here in Southern California. Ivy, where are you joining us from?
I'm in Chicago and it's snowing.
You're in Chicago and it's snowing. So one of my best friends growing up, my best man at my wedding, now lives in Chicago, and
really?
We're going to try to get back there this year and see him, and hopefully I'll be able to say hello to you and grab you for lunch or dinner. But listen, you guys, let us know where you're watching from. Let us know if you're hot or cold, depending on where you are in the United States or around the world, and also share your questions. We'd love to have your questions so that Ivy can answer them live here during today's Human.Social show. Ivy, this is an interesting application. I load it, I create a document, I click a couple of buttons, and it cleans it up. And we may do a screen share or a demo, or we'll walk everyone through how this works. But before we do that, I'm just curious, what got you interested in WordRake or in the technology sector? What brings you to us today?
I had a long and winding path to WordRake and legal tech in general. So I practiced law for 10 years. And then at the end of the 10 years, my friend from swing dance, that is my big hobby, said to me, "Why haven't you ever tried my software?" And I said, "I don't need that. I'm perfect," which is a standard lawyer comment to you could do this better. And that's how I got into the legal tech world. And my first project was American Legal Style for Perfected. And we looked up to this company called WordRake. For a few years, I said, if only we could be like WordRake. If only we could be like WordRake. WordRake has such a great product, has such market penetration. If only we could be like them. And I got lucky. The CEO at the time was willing to mentor me. And he did such a great job that we kind of reversed positions. And eventually he said, if only we could have an Ivy. And I joined the team. So
Did you find that one of the things I like about WordRake is that what I thought I wrote correctly the first time, it's helping me rake through my document and realize I'm using too many words. There's a better way of saying what I was trying to communicate in my pleading, in my letters. And I'm such a big fan of WordRake now that when I'm creating something in a different document like Google Docs or text messages or over in my email platform, I'm copying and pasting it over to Word so I can rake it and then copying and pasting it back. Do you have other people that do that?
Absolutely. I think most people do, and I certainly do on social media and on Twitter when I'm trying to cram everything into that 280 character limit. But people love it. And the thing about writing is that it's really hard to see how you can improve when you're looking at your own thing that you just created. You look at it, maybe you can see typos. Some people can't, but you think, aha, it's done. And WordRake is that one click that you can do to show you where you can be better, and your readers definitely appreciate it.
You know, I've got a 30-second WordRake demo video loaded. You want me to try to screen share and just go through that 30-second video so people can kind of get a feel for what we're talking about?
Sure, that would be great. Or I can screen share for you and give you a quick walkthrough. What's easier?
Well, it's up to you. If you want to run with the ball and add a bit of professionalism and polish to the whole process, maybe if you want to try it, we can give it a go.
All right, let's see how the screen share works.
Sure,
I will try it now, and maybe we can get the right screen on the first try.
Because I think when people see how it works, yeah, exactly. That's what I was worried about. If people can feel for how it works, it's super simple to use, and it actually is fast. So yeah, give it a try.
Okay, so, wow, I will have. It says that I'll have to like learn a whole bunch of new stuff. Why don't you run your thing? Yeah,
let me give this a try because it's a really good 30-second overview, you guys. And let me see if I can bring it up. I didn't want to put you on the spot with that, but let's see what happens.
That's okay. It's sometimes it is intuitive and no one else will have to learn with me while I figure it out the first time. Yeah, and sometimes it's not. So
all right, let's give it a try. I'm going to share the audio.
Welcome to WordRake, the only software that saves you time and money by instantly editing your writing to minimize words and maximize impact. To begin editing your document, just click the Rake icon. WordRake rakes your document in seconds. You accept the changes you like. If you disagree, select Reject, and your original text is restored. It's that easy. If time is money, WordRake is the best investment you'll ever make. Download your free trial today.
That turned out great.
Did that work? Did that work at your end? Okay,
yes,
fantastic. This is what I like about technology, you guys. Try things for the first time, and it's okay. I mean, with COVID-19, Ivy and I were talking about this before we went live. There's a new norm, right? Those of us practicing out of our homes right now, using green screen technology, having our cats and dogs jump up on our lap, creating new relationships with fellow cat and dog lovers that also happen to be opposing counsel, and screen sharing and having it work. And if you guys noticed how well and how fast and easy WordRake is to use with cleaning up that document, that's almost exactly what it looks like on my screen when I'm using the platform. And what I like, Ivy, is the ability to accept a suggested change or reject a suggested change, because oftentimes I write showing my own personality, that I have a certain writing style that's not really legal. It's more personalized, even when I'm writing to my clients. And I like that aspect of WordRake.
Absolutely. And I love how fast it is. There are other products that I've used that can take, several minutes to review a 30-page document. And that's just enough for me to get frustrated and walk away. But WordRake does it can review 30, 60 pages in under a minute. It's really impressive how much you can get done. And then it delivers its suggestions in the familiar track changes form. And I like that because it doesn't feel judgmental. When you have a side pane and you have basically the author of the program preaching at you saying, less is more, don't do this, etc., you start to feel judged and you don't want to run the program, versus when it just shows up in track changes, it feels like magic and you're much more open. And I love that.
What are some of the, and we're getting questions in, and I'll get to everyone's questions, you guys, so be patient. And by the way, I should point out that Ivy and WordRake are kind enough where at the end of today's live video, you guys, we're going to share a special code. I believe, Ivy, that's going to give our viewers 10% off of WordRake, correct?
Absolutely.
Okay.
It's the best 10% you can save.
It's the best 10% you can save, and it's not going to be valid for long. So jump on this offer, you guys, right away before it goes away. And I'll share the special code with you at the end of today's show. Ivy, what are some of the favorite features that you found as a are you still a practicing lawyer? I was going to say ex-lawyer. Are you still an attorney, or what's the terminology?
I am a licensed attorney, but I'm inactive.
Okay.
I am licensed in Oregon, New York, and Illinois, and all three are on hold right now.
So you're happy?
Yes.
You're a happy, smiling lawyer. So either with your lawyer hat on or with your VP of Strategy and Biz Development for WordRake, what are some of the favorite features that you found in WordRake? So
WordRake is one of those simple programs that has a lot going on in the background, and it doesn't have a lot of buttons. So it seems like there aren't a lot of features. So it's kind of a hard question to answer. But I like to think of the types of edits that it makes as features. And for me, my favorite is reducing nominalizations. A nominalization is basically turning an active verb into a noun. So saying make a decision, have a discussion rather than decide or discuss. And we do that junk a lot, not just in legal writing, but in all professional writing. We think it makes us sound smart, and it really just wastes space and irritates our readers. And WordRake will fix that in one click. It does it better than any other program that claims to do the same thing. It is truly impressive.
What are your thoughts, though, when it comes to, for example, me working on a pleading or a brief that I'll be filing with the court, as opposed to sending a long thank you letter to another attorney for a referral? There's two different types of writing styles. How can we use WordRake to accommodate each of those styles?
Well, I think that all writing is always better when it is to the point. It doesn't matter what you're writing. So when you're writing a brief, you want to be as precise as possible. And some people think that precise means more words, but precise actually means fewer words and the right ones. Words have meanings, and WordRake will help you get those things right. It'll help you remember the difference between anxious and eager, or less and fewer. And it will help you avoid that syntactic ambiguity. Another thing that it'll do is put your modifiers next to the correct words. So it's hard to remember where only is supposed to go, yet people use the word only all the time. And that is a great way to introduce litigation into a contract or some other thing where you think you have an agreement, but you don't really have an agreement because only's in the wrong spot, and everybody thinks that it means something else. So that's where it is in actual legal documents. Should I continue, or?
Yeah, well, let me ask you a follow-up. And by the way, those of you asking questions on Facebook, I think there's a link that says click and allow StreamYard to access your Facebook information so that we know who's sharing all of the kind comments and all of the great questions we'll be asking in a few minutes. For those of you listening to the podcast version of today's show, I'm sharing a comment. WordRake is really an impressive product. I wish I spent more time writing. I think with WordRake, you won't be as intimidated when it comes to writing, so that you do spend more time. And that's me, right? I've never been a good writer. I'm intimidated, Ivy, just talking with you today, because you are so clear and concise and so much smarter than I'll ever be. And I want to make sure that I present WordRake and you in the proper light, right?
Oh, you are too kind.
Yeah, but here's the thing, you guys. If I'm using WordRake to make the receiver of my communications think that I'm smarter than I am, more articulate, or what's the word? More articulate than I am, it'll work for you too. That's Nick Rishwain commenting, by the way. I don't know why it came up. You're probably tagged on Facebook, Nick, so as not to show your beautiful smile and name and to remain anonymous. And we can appreciate that. But
So, you were mentioning how it's important to write clearly and concisely for legal documents, but it also is great for your emails. And I love that WordRake works in Outlook. I rake every single email that I send, and it's improved the rate of response and the positivity of the response that I receive. It's just one click, it's mere seconds, and I get rid of all that back and forth. You know how you send an email and then somebody responds back with 5 words of, what does this really mean? And then you try to clarify, and then they respond again with, what does this really mean? You can skip that back and forth if you edit your email before sending it, and WordRake will help you do that. You might not ever ask a friend to check your email and make sure that it's as clear as possible, but you would do that with a long business letter. Now you can apply that same level of care and editing to your emails, which I love.
And so you mentioned something that I didn't bring up at the top of the show. It not only WordRake not only works in Word, but it works, for example, in Outlook. And
Yes.
some of the questions we're getting is, how does it work with our writing? So maybe once somebody subscribes to the WordRake platform, how do you then show up on their screen, on their laptop? How do they integrate it into the programs that they'll be using?
So
Good question.
just like you would make any sort of changes in as style or applying font or actually making changes in track changes, WordRake runs right from the ribbon in one click, and you scoot over to the big orange button, click Rake, and it ripples through your document just like a smart editor would, except without the snarky feedback and judgment. And it gives you suggestions for what to delete, what to add, and what to replace. And then using this similar form as track changes, you can accept or reject those changes. You can either do that with the buttons on the ribbon, or you can do it right-clicking with your mouse. WordRake is fully accessible. We draw on all of Microsoft's accessibility tools, so that if you have some impediment to using a keyboard or a mouse, we can still work with you there. So WordRake uses algorithms. It's not a one-to-one match like you might find in other tools that will make it much more limited. Instead, it looks at each word, labels as parts of speech, and then considers your writing in context and makes suggestions based on that. It is a lot of work going on, but it's all in the background and it's lightning fast. So you're not going to get irrelevant comments about things that you're not writing about.
Does it take into consideration the algorithm, your writing history, how you use the program, the decisions and options that you make while using WordRake?
So that sounds like it would be a good thing, but to do that, that means that we must store or a company that does that must store all of your writing decisions and actually store the documents that you have created, which is a violation of Model Rule 1.5. If you are doing any legal writing, you don't want a program that learns, because a program that it learns means that it's reading and remembering everything you've written.
Ooh,
and your clients don't want that. So WordRake does not do that. Instead, the algorithms make it incredibly flexible, and your writing will change over time. I play a game with myself called Beat the Rake, and I try to write so tightly that WordRake doesn't have any feedback. And some people would think that trains you out of using it, but for me, it's this little jolt of endorphins to not have any edits. And I would gladly pay $129 a year for that little endorphin jolt that comes every few minutes.
Beat the Rake. I love this. This is what we do during COVID, you guys. We play Beat the Rake. So how
Yes.
often do you beat the rake, Ivy? Are you smarter than the program, or does it still remind you every now and then, hey, maybe here's a suggested change?
I am definitely not smarter than the program. I beat the rake maybe once per month,
Okay.
and if I beat the rake but find a way that I could have made it better, then I go and I create a new rule to try to catch that next thing. So I don't get to just do I'm involved in the operations and the marketing, and I also am involved in the programming. So
Really?
as I find rules that should be tightened, I get to actually fix those things. And if I find things that could be better or that we haven't addressed yet, I get to work on that too. It's exciting.
What would be fun is to come up with like a hashtag beat the rake and then have people screenshot their documents and then click and activate WordRake and see if they actually beat the algorithm. And if so,
I want to do that. It's been on my list of things to do. So I just need to find the right platform to allow that to happen. But now that you've said it,
great minds think alike.
Exactly.
So let's say you've got a small firm or a large firm that wants to beat the rake. They want to improve the writing skills of their team members, their lawyers, and they want to implement WordRake into their work process. How does that work? How is it different between a small firm and a large firm? Is it something that's kind of automated that gets distributed across, all of the different desktops and laptops? How does that work?
So the functionality will be the same no matter what version you're using. We have WordRake, our standard version that you can buy at wardrake.com/buy. And then we also have the enterprise version. The users will have the same experience no matter what. But if you want to roll out WordRake to a team of, say, 10 or more, then go to wardrake.com/enterprise and set up a 30-day pilot. You can put as many users as you want in that pilot. And I highly recommend that you do. Give it to every secretary, every paralegal, every associate. I know a lot of people think, okay, there are 5 lawyers in my firm. We need 5 licenses. But there are probably 10 highly valuable contributors in your firm who are writing every day. And those people probably should all have WordRake. So do the pilot, include them, and check it out. So with the enterprise version, the IT person can push WordRake out to all of the users. It works in your Active Directory domain, and you can also push out any sorts of updates. So it's simple. The IT manager, it is in control of all of that. And WordRake has passed every single security test we've ever been put through, including for the Pentagon, the DOJ, everybody and anybody. We are entirely organized around data security, and that is our first goal.
It's interesting because it seems to work when I'm using it. I don't even know it's working in the background. It's a very smooth type of work interface. Click a couple of buttons, it cleans up my writing, and it works really well. A couple of comments, a couple of questions coming in. Are there any tricks to downloading, for example, when using Outlook or using older versions of Word? Should things be upgraded first? What platforms is WordRake compatible with? What are some things that new consumers, new buyers this week who want to go out and get set up before the end of the year? What are some things they may want to do with respect to updating their systems to eliminate any glitches?
There's not much you need to do. If you have WordRake works on Mac or Windows platforms. If you want to use the Outlook version, it is for Windows only, and it must be on the client, not the web version. WordRake only works on the actual client, not the web-only versions of Office 365. But most people actually have the version that they're running locally on their computer. So you need to run Microsoft Word or Outlook locally on your computer. Mac or Windows, doesn't matter. 2007 or later, it will function. We support 2010 or later. But if you love 2007, you can still use it if you would like. We put in a lot of work to be backward and forward compatible and to give everybody that same experience. We also do a lot to have feature parity between Mac and Windows. There's only one button right now that's different, and it's non-substantive.
Between the Windows and Mac version?
Correct.
Okay. Interesting. If anyone has challenges, and one of the things I liked is when I first started using WordRake in our law firm, I did have a couple of questions. I reached out to a mutual friend of ours and was able to get them answered. I don't know if she's part of tech support, but are there any suggestions for anyone that is having challenges? Like, how do they reach out to the company to get help with making the system work?
Sure. Support at wordrake.com. The person that you will likely reach is Mindy Westerman, and she is outstanding. She knows anything and everything that there is to know. And we respond within 4 hours or less. And you will be impressed with how well she understands what's going on your end. Even if you don't ask a very clear question, she will still know what you're talking about because she's been with the company for a really long time. So
I'm really good at asking vague questions. I like that. And when it comes to tech support, so a couple of questions here coming up, I think, from Periscope and Twitter, and that is, does WordRake only work on a laptop and a desktop? Will it work on my phone or a tablet? I guess what different devices will it work on?
So you must be running a full version of Microsoft Word, which means that it will only work on your laptop or desktop, not your phone or an iPad. The version of Word that you are running when you're using your phone or your iPad is not the same OS and is actually an app version based on the internet-only version of Microsoft Office.
Okay, good. That great answer. Great question. I'm glad we have a few people I didn't realize so many people are trying to use Word on their phones or I guess tablets. I've always been a laptop, desktop kind of guy when it comes to Microsoft Word.
Same here, but people really do like doing things on their iPad, and I wouldn't recommend writing anything of substance on your phone, though I did write an entire brief on my BlackBerry from a hospital bed.
Oh good.
Which,
that's
just wrong.
If you're anything like my 26-year-old daughter or 20-year-old son, I mean, they can text faster than I can type. It's pretty impressive what they can do with their phones.
Yeah, not me. I'm a lot older than I look, and I'm like, when it comes to my phone, but on a regular keyboard, I type about 120 words a minute with 97% accuracy.
Wow, that's impressive. All right,
my mom's the secretary. So.
There you go. That's, I will tell you that typing is one class in high school that I think I've used more so than anything else that I learned in high school.
Yes.
Is how to type, right? Because with computers and technology over the last 20 or 30 years, this is how we've been accessing data. So moving forward with 2021, what type of features, functions are you talking about adding to WordRake, maybe improving upon, or have in mind or would like to incorporate into the software? Anything in particular?
So we've actually just released 2 major updates in the last few months, which is exciting, but we are committed to doing even more in 2021 and in the future. And I'm looking forward to releasing an update that includes specific information related to the Plain Language Act. So if you write for government organizations, or if you must comply with the Plain Language Act of 2010 to reach your audience, then we will have an even easier way for you to do that specifically. It won't just be clear and concise writing, it will be geared toward the Plain Language Act. So that should be coming up in early 2021.
So that sounds interesting. I'm not familiar with the act. What are just the general requirements? What's different about that?
It essentially requires you to write as if you've used WordRake, and it suggests common, easily understood replacements for words. So if you might use business jargon or other things that regular people wouldn't understand, then unless you're speaking with one of those people who is specifically in that world, then you are required to use plain language replacements. So if you had a broken bone or a cut on your arm, It should be a broken bone or a cut on your arm, not a contusion and a laceration. Most regular people don't know what that means. And the Plain Language Act would require you to use language that normal people would understand. It also suggests using shorter sentences, shorter paragraphs, shorter words, all of those things that really just make your writing accessible, and we should be doing anyway. But now it's codified in the Plain Language Act. So
I love that. I think lawyers who are interested in having a more effective opening statement or closing argument or series of questions on direct or cross-examination, that's exactly what trial lawyers need to do, is they need to simplify the terms so that the jurors can relate and understand what's going on. And so many friends of mine use terms where I'll sit in court and I'll think to myself, what did he or she just say? I mean, it sounds really right. And if I don't know what it is, and I've been doing this for a long time, there's a pretty good chance the jurors don't know what they're talking about either. And so I really, really like that feature if and when it comes out. Question over from Bob on, I think, LinkedIn, and that is, what are the differences between Grammarly, which a lot of us know about, and WordRake? Good question.
So the first and most important difference is that Grammarly is essentially a keylogger. It records everything that you write and everything that it has read and given feedback on. The only way to delete that information is to delete your Grammarly account. And there's no guarantee for how long they'll store your information. Eventually they'll get rid of it. That's it. That's all that they promise you. WordRake never tracks your information, never tracks which edits you make or accept, never tracks your documents or stores your documents. So that's the main thing. The next thing is that Grammarly is mostly trained on unsophisticated writers, and WordRake is designed for professionals who are already strong writers, but just need a little bit of editing help and want to do a better job. So WordRake will keep that level of sophistication and keep that level of intelligence that you are already bringing to your document and just punch it up a little bit. Grammarly will make odd suggestions that a lawyer or another business professional wouldn't necessarily want.
I noticed that we used Grammarly when we were putting together a book that I was part of, and the suggested changes, the time it took to go through each chapter, it just took way too long, and there were just too many bad suggestions for us to be able to continue using it. What I've noticed about WordRake, and I may be wrong, you guys, but maybe Ivy will agree with me, is I've noticed WordRake is faster. It offers me more specific, to the point suggestions. And it's just, it's faster to use. I mean, faster, like by 80% faster, at least for the type of writing that I do. Have you had that feedback from other users, Ivy, or am I off base?
Definitely. No, okay. People think that it's faster. And part of it is that the interface is so fast. Here's a little trick for you and for people at home. If you like all of the suggestions that WordRake has made in a paragraph or on a page, you can highlight them all and click accept at the same time. And so that will speed up your process. And it works just like it would work in track changes. Say a partner came in and marked up your document and you were like, oh, yes, this is gold. I love this. You can just highlight and say, yes, I like it. That's not an option in Grammarly. The other thing about Grammarly is that it's invasive and intrusive, at least in my opinion. It's this floating pane, and it's always telling you, do this, do that. Are you sure you meant this? And it's like, I haven't even finished the sentence yet. Why are you bothering me? Leave me alone. Right. And WordRake waits until you're done, waits until you've thought through the process, waits until you've got the sentence out, and then you say, okay, I'm ready for feedback. And that, to me, makes it a much better user experience than using something that is injecting its ideas and feedback all along the way. Which
then will distract your writing as you're writing. At least for me, that's what happens. A friend of mine, Harold Epps, a brilliant human being and good friend, he's noticed the speed difference as well. So Harold, it's good to see you today, buddy. Reach out to me and call me, and let's get caught up over the holidays. Ivy, when you say highlight everything, so let's come back to that real quick, because I think that sounds like a powerful tip that you just shared. Yes. Everything suggested in the documents that WordRake suggests is what I want to have happen. When you say highlight, you mean press like Control A, highlight the whole Word document and hit accept? Or how do you highlight everything? What are you talking about?
You can do it that way, or you can take your cursor and
just highlight
and highlight whatever portion you'd like. So either one works, and you can click accept. Or if you don't like something, say we didn't recognize that you were quoting from the Supreme Court, and you went on and on and on, and we didn't recognize it was a quote. Usually it skips quotes, but if you don't use all of the tags, then we might not recognize that it's a quote. So we can't actually make changes to that quote. And so you would want to reject all of those changes. So you can highlight those and reject them too. I love that you can do both. And again,
Sure.
WordRake works with all of the Microsoft functionality. So if there's a hotkey or a shortcut that you use to highlight everything, it works with WordRake too. It doesn't stop working. It enhances everything that you would be doing through Microsoft Word or Outlook.
The reason I came back to that is because oftentimes, especially in a 1 or 2 page document, when I hit WordRake to check it, I pretty much go with all of WordRake's suggestions. And I'm thinking, if I'm in a hurry, I'd rather just click WordRake, have it rake my document, and then just click accept, and then maybe have a team member check it later on once it's off my desk and it's in their inbox.
So we don't offer an accept all button for a reason. WordRake is supposed to be your collaborator. We do want you to think. We are correct.
I don't want to think. I want WordRake to do all the thinking for me.
Well, if someone else is reviewing, then go ahead, enjoy yourself, highlight and accept all whatever you want. Okay. But I would highly recommend actually reviewing everything before accepting. The other thing that you can do, which I love, is that you can rake more than once. So if you have a particularly thorny paragraph, you can rake it, accept the changes, and then rake it again. And it might have more changes. You could even rake 3 or 4 times. I mean, at a certain point, there's going to be diminishing returns, but it's nice to know that if your sentence starts off at 100 words, chances are we can really get it down by raking a few times. And the reason that happens is 2 reasons. First, the sentence changes, so your inputs are always going to be different. WordRake is highly contextualized, so the advice that we give is entirely dependent upon what the sentence is that we're raking. The other thing is that we have rules that will tell you that will say to WordRake, apply this rule, but not this rule if both would fire at the same time. And that helps you to be more accurate and not give you off the wall suggestions. So if accepting one rule and one change would make another change ridiculous, we don't put those in the same sentence together most of the time, if we can anticipate that would happen. So
I'm wondering if WordRake actually laughs at my writing when I do put those in the same sentence at the same time. Thank goodness there's somebody smarter out there that's going to fix my writing errors or mistakes. So we're speaking with Ivy Gray, who's VP of Strategy and Biz Development with WordRake. For those of you joining now, Ivy, there's a question that was asked, and that's why I wanted to set the stage. And that is, what platforms, what services does WordRake work with? And you touched upon this at the beginning of the show, but we know it works with Word, Microsoft Word.
Right.
What other platforms does WordRake work with and/or may evolve to work with in 2021 and beyond?
So Microsoft Word and Outlook only on Mac or Windows for the Word version, Windows only for Outlook, and it must be the full desktop or laptop version, not the online only version. So we've had a lot of requests to start working with Google Docs, and we're looking into it, which is kind of exciting. We listen to our users, and we listen to the people who want to be users, but just can't be yet. So when you say to us, we would love to use WordRake if you worked on Google Docs, we take note, we listen, and we look for ways to make it happen. It might not be, in 6 months, it might not be in 2 years, but we listen to you. We keep track of that, and we're always looking for ways to serve our community.
Have you noticed, or do you believe that more millennials are using Google Docs than they are Word, for example?
I actually researched that,
Yeah,
and
it seems like everybody I know that's younger than I am they're using Google Docs is more than anything else. But what has your research shown us?
The research has shown that when composing individually or even in succession, so one person to the next, even millennials prefer to use Microsoft Word. It has better editing features. But if you are collaborating, then millennials by far prefer Google Docs.
Okay.
So it's really a matter of what you're doing with your document. And I like that you can go back and forth. I am on a 100% remote team now, and I had a 100% remote law firm, and I've had 100% remote nonprofits. And, right, in this scenario, we're all using Word, so that works. But for my nonprofit, we were using Google Docs. Yet I loved WordRake, and I loved some of my other add-ins. And so I would export the document, do everything that I could with it, and then re-import it to Google Docs, because I didn't want to be stuck without the tools that I relied on. And no one wants you to spend all that time reinventing the wheel when there's there's software that can do it in one click.
We have a comment. As a millennial, I approve of and agree with Ivy's findings. Yes,
Awesome.
Absolutely. And it's very easy to again, for me on my Mac, I think it's, Alt A or Alt, whatever it is. My function's down here to copy and paste from Google Docs to Word and back and forth. It only takes me a half a second. And I do the same thing, Ivy. I want to make sure that WordRake checks my Google document to improve my writing. And then if for whatever reason I'm collaborating, I'll just go ahead and copy and paste it back into Google Docs. Doesn't take that much time. There's a great question here from Harold Epps, and you guys should connect with Harold on all the different platforms. And he asked, what other languages does WordRake accommodate? Ooh, that's a good question.
So WordRake only works in English, but as Americans, we think that there's only one type of English, yet there's many. There's Canadian English, British English, Australian English, etc. And you will have all variations on spelling and word choice. And WordRake will respect whatever you put in. So if you've spelled color, COLOUR, and there's some sort of change, WordRake will respect your British spelling. The same with, say, flavor, color, all of those OURs, theater, where it's RE versus ER. Right. WordRake will always respect that. So I think that's pretty exciting. If you are writing in other languages that recognize the standard alphabet and don't use drawn characters, then WordRake doesn't work there yet, but we are getting more requests. And again, we like to hear from you. If you want us to do something, gather your friends, tell us about it, and we'll consider it.
Awesome. That was a great question, and it's not one that I was intending to ask, but what the heck, I want to know what's going on too. And I happen to know Harold speaks multiple languages and has worked and lived in multiple countries. So great question, Harold. Ivy, what I want to do, you guys, is Ivy's kind enough and WordRake is kind enough to extend a 10% discount to our viewers for a limited period of time. And Ivy, what I want to do is, if it's okay with you, is maybe tell us a little bit about how people can take advantage of this special discount that you're nice enough to extend. And while you're doing that, I can put the code up on the screen.
Sure.
And I think it probably is for a limited time. So if you guys are interested in jumping on this, make sure you do it quickly before WordRake and I eliminate this particular code.
Yes. So to apply the discount, go to wordrake.com/buy, and on the last screen of checkout, there will be a field for you to enter a coupon code and just enter Save10 podcast. It is not case sensitive, so whatever you write in there, so long as it's spelled properly, will work. Note that that's 10, not 10 as in the letter O. and podcast is O as in the letter O. You've got to get those two things right for it to work. It will be good. We're going to try to run it to the end of the year because we like Mitch.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
I think we do need an end date certain, though, right? Just because this will be podcast, people will be listening and watching this.
Yes.
So
it will definitely. It will not go. It will not be around in 2021 whatsoever.
Ooh, that's so nice of you. Thank you.
So definitely try to get in there and get WordRake for yourself. And here's the thing: we're going to be super generous. If you want to buy 3 or 4 licenses, say, you and your paralegal or you and your kids, you can. We will give you the discount on your full purchase. If you are a WordRake user and you want to say your daughter to become a WordRake user, go to wordrake.com/gift and you can give WordRake as a gift. And the coupon will apply there too.
What a great stocking stuffer for the holiday. I love that. Give a gift, help them be more productive, help them with the success that they're looking for in their legal careers, and everyone's happy. A happy child who's a new lawyer, it's a happy mom and dad. Trust me on that.
True.
This has been so much fun. And I appreciate you coming on Human.Social live video show. For those viewers who joined us late, for viewers watching the recorded version of the show or listening to the podcast version of the show next week or even next month, what's the best way for people to reach out if they have any questions for you or your team members on the product, on enhancements, or on anything else regarding the wonderful WordRake service?
All right. If you want to hear from me in particular and get directed to all of the research and studies that I am always doing because I am apparently a boring person, it's IVG, that's IV as in Victor YG at wordrake.com. If you'd like to find out about running a pilot or have other questions about the product, sales at wordrake.com. And I'm incredibly active on Twitter, and I am Ivy B. Gray. That's the name that you see right up there on Twitter.
And listen, you're easy to connect with. I love how you break down what this complicated algorithm behind the scenes does for us on our devices to make us write better, more effective, and persuasive communications. I think when it's all said and done, especially for the lawyers out there, that's something that we all need to work on a daily basis. Ivy, thanks for being on the show today. I really appreciate it. Hey, everybody.
I had so much fun.
Yes, this was awesome. I really appreciate it. And maybe we can do it again in 2021 if you have time and you just want to jump on and say hi to everybody. Listen, everyone, thanks for joining us today. This was awesome. You guys have enjoy the journey. I know it's tough right now, but do your best to try to make each and every day your masterpiece. Bye, Ivy. Bye, everybody. Take care.
Bye.